David Reinhardt with Geekenstein Media, and I'm here with
Matt Boch.
And we're here to talk about Fantasia Music Evolved.
Indeed.
So, of course, my first question has to be, how did you decide to make a video game out of Fantasia? Because when the was first announced, I thought it was an internet joke. I was like, Harmonix is making a Fantasia game? Who would make a Fantasia game?
Well, Disney came to us and said, hey, we have this great idea for a game. We were like, I don't know what you're talking about. What kind of game could you want us to make? And they said, we want to bring Fantasia into the interactive age. And that's the kind of challenge Harmonix wants to take on.
And so we've been playing it here. We've seen a few new levels, and I love the game. Fantasia is one of my favorite movies of all time. So to see the game and just it really does capture that essence. Now, how did you approach this challenge and bring Fantasia to the modern era?
Well, it really started with just trying to figure out how we could give the player something new. The original Fantasia was really all about trying to bring people closer to music and make them understand some of the nuances of music by using visuals. And we felt that what we could bring to music now that would be as impactful as that was back in 1940 was to bring player agency and allow people to have creativity within musical spaces. So we wanted to create all that sort of great audio-visual synchronicity that the original film has. And so we have these gorgeous, rich worlds that are full of animated characters that sing and move around all into music that you create. And in addition to that, we take some amazing songs that you love, everything from gorgeous classical music to contemporary pop, and we let you remix it and change it and create your own compositions out of it. And that level of just interaction with music is something people haven't had before, and we think follows through on Walt Disney's original vision.
I wholeheartedly agree. Now, with Fantasia, this is the first Harmonix game that has really explored gameplay just outside of playing music. Now, how was that a challenge to basically get out of your comfort zone and design the discovery levels?
We were really excited to do it, but it was a long process to figure it out. I mean, all of our artists and musicians were hugely excited to be making stuff that wasn't dancers and rock musicians, and so they jumped right into it and created gorgeous, gorgeous sets of art. What we needed to figure out is what we're going to do with that art. What was the player going to be able to interact with? And so we tried all sorts of different things that were more like an adventure game kind of thing. We had, some sort of sandboxy kind of things. We were just changing the tone of the world by moving around. And what we settled on was a amazing thing, which is allowing the player to use those worlds to create their own soundtrack within those worlds. So you zoom into a section of the world, you interact with something interesting, and then you've created a musical composition that stays in that world. And so as you're bringing in elements of different songs, you're also teaching different types of animals and creatures and all sorts of different things to make music.
Now, will we see any sort of nods or little references or to classic Disney properties within the Fantasia?
Certainly we have a lot of nods to Fantasia. I mean, the original film is the narrative context of the game. You are a sorcerer's apprentice, you're going into the worlds of Fantasia, Yensid is training you, and the team has certainly taken the opportunity to make little nods to the original film throughout the game.
Now, of course, the Fantasia, the film, it starts with the, I can't remember any of the names of the songs, but it opens with the very... Yes, and it's very just... It's synesthesia, basically, in motion, and then it goes into the Sorcerer's Apprentice, these light, whimsical tales, but then, of course, it ends with Night on Bald Mountain, and it gets really dark. Now, is the game also going to explore these different... tonal shifts?
Yeah, so a lot of the stuff you've seen so far is tended towards a more whimsical tone, but across the entirety of the game there's all sorts of different worlds. Some of the worlds are far more dark than others. Some are kind of inventive and celebratory, but we've tried to create a pretty broad set of tones within the game. And beyond that, the story, which we'll talk more about in the coming months, has a real threat that is frightening in some way.
Excellent. And what is the process like approaching these remixes? Because when you get into after you finish the songs, you can go and remix them, and there's I can't remember what. Oh God, I'm so terrible with song names. But there were dubstep remixes and parts of songs, ska remixes. How do you come up with what song, how you want to mix it, and then just it's like creativity unbounded.
Yeah, so we sit in the same room and we're talking about, okay, what songs should be in the game and what would be a hilarious thing to do with that song. And most of the remixes you've heard are made by people I work with who work on the game, all sorts of different people who are in QA or designers. I've made a couple remixes for the game. There's a huge, amazing set of musicians at Harmonix, and lots of people who are in our audio department are musicians, but beyond that, artists, etc. So really it's about just handing them over the stems and saying, hey, like, make something that is something that you love using this song. And I think some of the best stuff we've been able to make is remixes where people didn't like the original song, and they were like, oh, like this, I don't like this kind of pop music, and they turn it into like a jazz standard, and now they love it. And I think we'll offer players the same ability. They don't like the jazz standard version, they're going to match that up with half dubstep and disco, and it's going to be their own brand new creation. So what I'm hoping to see is people inventing brand new genres based on the types of remixes that you can create in the game.
And what's your favorite remix?
My favorite remix right now, I'd say, is probably the 8-bit Avicii remix. It's like just a great little chiptunes thing that happens, and I feel like it's nice to have those nods to video game culture in the game.
Now, this is coming out on Xbox 360 and Xbox One.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any features in the Xbox One version that take advantage of the now much more higher-powered Kinect camera?
So certainly from a play space management standpoint, it'll be easier to play multiplayer on the Xbox One with its wider field of view. Additionally, the resolution, etc., will make it feel a little tighter, a little more reliable. There's some stuff we're looking at in terms of extra features for Xbox One, but nothing ready to talk about quite yet.
Okay. And are there any plans to support the game with further DLC down the line, like with everything that's come out in the past?
I'd be very surprised if we didn't do that.
Okay, well, thank you so much. Fantasia Music Evolved looks utterly fantastic, and thank you. You guys are making an amazing game. Thank you so much for talking with us.